Hey folks, it's Patriot Nurse, and I'm just thinking about today. And I spoke with a couple of friends earlier, watching this administration waste the sacrifice of 20 years worth of men and women and use the tax dollars that they extract from us under coercive threat of violence to then turn around and give to the Taliban, who are apparently the reason why we have no civil rights anymore in the first place over the past 20 years. The reason why the government can spy on us, Taliban. The reason why, or the similar heads of the Hydra. The reason why we have to get humiliated to go to an airport, through an airport, to get on a plane, Taliban. The reason why the government can spy on us and listen to our phone conversations, Taliban. Because they're such a threat, right? Such a threat that we left them 200,000 small arms at a minimum with better optics than what many Americans can afford. We left them 20,000 Humvees and MRAPs and Blackhawks that they're now using to suspend the executed bodies of political enemies, in the air over the crowds in Afghanistan. Can somebody please explain to me how paying taxes to this government is rendering into seizure when they're executing people who were believers in the Bible? How is it that rendering to seizure means to pay taxes in support of a government that's illegitimate? And that's turning around and arming people who are slaughtering Christians, political dissidents, victimizing women. It's one thing for you to say, okay, well, those are other cultures. Yeah, I have a non-interventionist policy too. For sure. But literally, bread is being taken out of the mouths of American children to give a terrorist organization superior weapons than what the American citizen, the law-abiding American citizen, can buy. And the same administration is telling us that we're the threat and we need to be disarmed. So not only are we not supposed to have any Second Amendment rights, but now we're supposed to roll up our sleeve or else. $20 years worth of suffering and sacrifice. 20 years worth of loss of civil rights for this administration to turn around and give it all away to a terrorist organization. Here's my question. If they're so trustworthy that you can leave them more Blackhawks than what the Australian Air Force has, then we should be completely doing away with all the domestic spying operations and all the civil rights curtailments of the past 20 years. If we're going to just roll back and give Afghanistan back in a worse order than what it was when we got there, except now like everybody's more armed, then we can roll back all the civil rights abuses, right? So we can just, crumple up the CIA, crumple up all the PRISM and the domestic spying stuff. We should be able to crumple that up, right? Am I going to get a refund of all the tax dollars that have been used to purchase all of these weapons for people who are going to turn around and slaughter innocents? If that's not the case, then why are we paying taxes? So I, as an American citizen now, if I don't pay my taxes, I have to worry about getting my assets frozen and my doors kicked in. But the Taliban gets Blackhawks and MRAPs and nods now. Small arms and Humvees. This is not lawful government. I don't see how anyone who is a God-fearing person can justify or rationalize this. If it's fear that keeps us paying taxes, then we should call it what it is. We're afraid of them. We're afraid of reprisal. We're afraid of them freezing our bank accounts. We're afraid of them kicking our doors in. I don't know what's worse to be afraid of. The fact that I don't pay and I have to get them, the threat of them kicking my door in or freezing my assets, or if I do pay, they are my enemies who want to behead me. At least one way I can have a clear conscience that my life's labor wasn't used to facilitate it. "20 years, my entire adult life. Worthless from a foreign policy standpoint." You know, there is a deep understanding about the Exodus and the story of the children of Israel. And in the rabbinical understanding, the term harsh labor is brought up. What did it mean when Pharaoh made the Hebrews' labor harsh? Two things. He assigned the male task to the women and the female task to the men. Confusion of the genders. But also, as the Hebrews would build the cities, they didn't build the pyramids, they built the cities. When the Hebrews were building the cities, after they had stacked the bricks up, the Egyptians would come back and kick them down and make all that labor for nothing. Few things are more harsh than seeing that your labor has been fruitless and that your time has been wasted. To see the way that this was poorly executed, to see the way that such serial disregard for the previous sacrifices of Americans has been viewed by this current administration. I'm like a lot of you right now, and reevaluating many things. I've known that these people were vile and wicked and corrupt, but this is an entirely new level. We literally just handed them over our armaments. The federal government of the United States handed over armaments that it apparently trusts a dedicated terrorist organization with, but doesn't trust its own citizens to purchase. You want to talk about an empire of oppression? That's the federal government of the United States. Hope it was helpful for y'all. If you enjoyed the video, I hope you'll subscribe. Maybe we can actually stay together and do something more than, complain on YouTube. Actually be able to coalesce and have political momentum, because these people need to be absolutely dethroned. I've talked about the Convention of States, but there are basically three options here at this point that don't involve bloodshed en masse. The Convention of States and secession, people have talked about nullification, but nullification is proto-secession, because eventually if the states nullify and cease to enforce federal mandates, there will inevitably be secessionary movements, and they need to happen. These people have no legitimacy. They need to be absolutely cut off like a gangrenous limb that they are. For now, it's Patriot Nurse signing off, and I'll see y'all later.